Welcome everyone to today's checkup for the upcoming Dynamax Lugia debut. We'll be discussing the various counters for taking on this Pokemon at length, their strengths, their weaknesses, and generally what to power up on these Pokemon to best utilize your Stardust and Max Particles. If you're new here, my name is Antarcticuno, otherwise known as the Dynamax Doctor, and I make videos discussing the finer details and mechanics for Dynamax battles. So if that is of interest to you, please consider subscribing down below to stay up to date with the latest news and analysis. As always, here's a brief disclaimer about the damage calculation formula I use. While this formula is what Pokemon Go uses for its damage calculations, I'll be making some simplifications to attack and defense since I can't really know your specific level, IVs, etc. And instead, we'll just be using the base attack and defense of your Pokemon and the boss Pokemon respectively. Lugia is an exciting new addition to the Dynamax format, as one of the first box art legendary Pokemon to be made available after Zacian and Zamazenta. As we've learned from the Pokemon 2000 movie, Lugia excels at taking punishing amounts of damage and emerging unscathed. In fact, Lugia's defense and stamina is actually higher than Zamazenta's, which will make it an excellent alternative depending on the matchup. Where Zamazenta has historically struggled to overcome its fighting and ground weaknesses, Lugia is ready to swoop in and assume your tanking needs. Now, what shall we expect from Lugia as a Dynamax boss? With such great reward, we have to expect some struggle. While Lugia's attack is not high enough to make it a strong attacker outright, it makes up for this with insanely powerful charge attacks as a Dynamax boss. As you will see, Lugia's Aeroblast has the ability to one-shot most attackers, and decimate multiple shields from your tanks if you aren't investing into Max Guard properly. Some less seasoned battlers may find it easier to back out and retry against Lugia's sporting Aeroblast for this reason. The tanks I will talk about today, though, should be able to only lose about one shield per Aeroblast attack, so be wary of this. For the truly dedicated, make sure you take advantage of Lugia this Dynamax weekend, as leveling up its moves will require a lot of candy, which is normally unavailable to grind for. On screen is a triple Venn diagram featuring the roles for attackers, tanks, and healers, along with placements for each of the Pokemon we'll discuss today into the roles that they fit best. This isn't to say that you can't try to make something like Snorlax an all-out offensive powerhouse, but that it tends to skew more heavily in the territory of healing and damage sponging. For the upcoming battles, I'd recommend a team composition of at least one strong attacker and two tanks or healers. Let's dig in. First up, we have to talk about the best attacker in the game, Gigantamax Gengar. Gmax Gengar stands on a league of its own damage-wise, and this is important when considering how bulky Lugia is to take down. The fact that it does about 15 to 20% more damage with its Gmax Terrors over the best attackers on this list makes Gengar an easy choice for investment and team building. Following this Halloween season, it goes without saying that many players probably have a stockpile of Ghastly candy that could be put to good use here. As with all attackers, Gengar needs to avoid taking damage from Lugia. Gengar is especially weak to both Lugia's Aeroblast and Future Sight attacks, so keep Gengar lurking in the shadows until the Dynamax phase. The newly added Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is a second-tier attacker that is capable of dealing massive damage to Lugia. As the strongest Dark-type attacker in the game to date, Grimmsnarl's Gmax Snooze attacks make other Dynamax attacks look like child's play. And the heavy emphasis on Grimmsnarl and its evolution line in the recent Wild Area event may make Grimmsnarl an easy investment choice. Grimmsnarl's dark typing also allows it to survive Future Sight attacks better than most Pokemon. But looking at how it fares against the rest of Lugia's attacks will mean keeping Grimmsnarl out of harm's way most of the time. Gigantamax Toxtricity is another second-tier attacker thanks to its Gmax Stun Shock attack. While candy for Toxtricity is not as readily available as, say, Gengar, forcing you to rely on eggs in Dynamax Toxtricity dens, this may still be a good option for those who didn't rack up as much Ghastly or Impidimp candy in the last month. As with all attackers, resist the urge to rock out with Toxtricity until the Dynamax phase. Don't want to cut this guy's concert short. Dynamax Urshifu Single Strike is an okay attacker for Lugia as well. I've recapped my reservations about Urshifu a few times now, mostly that investment at this stage feels like a poor decision, given the uncertainty about the unreleased Gigantamax Urshifu, but use this if you have it fully powered up. If you haven't sunk all of your Rare Candy and Rare Candy XL into this Pokemon to train up its moves, better to look elsewhere for now. Zapdos and Raikou are some of the third-tier attackers for Lugia. While they suffer from much of the same candy scarcity as other legendary Pokemon, where these two shine is their ability to charge the Max Meter quickly with Thundershock, deal massive damage with Max Lightning, and survive some of Lugia's hard-hitting Aeroblasts. Most attackers will be automatically taken down when facing Lugia's Aeroblast, so the fact that these two lightning legends can take one or two of them before fainting deserves to be highlighted. Rounding out our list of attackers are the newly introduced evolutions, Glaceon and Jolteon. Jolteon is similar to Zapdos and Raikou in that it can survive Lugia's Aeroblasts, which is certainly a nice quality to have. What might make these Pokemon appealing, however, is the ease of access to Eevee candy to power them up. I would happily take a third-tier attacker with fully powered up moves and CP over a top-rated attacker with zero investment. What's cool to talk about Shuckle is that it is one of the only Pokemon in the game with a higher defense stat than Lugia. This impressive feat may be utilized to good effect, too. Shuckle shrugs off all of Lugia's hits well, permitting it has the proper investment into Max Guard to help out its abysmal HP stat. Considering the performance of the tanking options for Lugia, however, this may be your best bet. Metagross is a good tank for resisting Lugia's Psychic and Flying type attacks. Do note that even with this resistance, Metagross is still expected to lose a shield every time Lugia uses Aeroblast, even with maximum guard investment. If you happen to take advantage of Metagross's newly added Shadow Claw fast attack, congratulations! This may be one of the few instances where it actually makes a difference. But considering the likely need for Metagross to renew shields in every Dynamax phase, I'm skeptical of the opportunities to fire off Max Phantasms safely. Zacian showing up in the tank section is certainly unconventional, given it is the box legend for the Pokemon Sword game. While its offensive prowess cannot be overstated, against Lugia, that monstrous attack stat means little without type effectiveness to back it up. No, instead, we're interested in that 240 defense stat, which is actually quite excellent, out-tanking the likes of Metagross and other steel types. Fairy Steel is a notoriously powerful defensive typing, and unlike its counterpart Zamazenta, allows it to actually resist Lugia's powerful flying and psychic type attacks. Latias is yet another legendary Pokemon with a meaningful defensive profile against Lugia. What gives Latias an interesting angle is its dragon typing, affording it a resistance to Lugia's Hydro Pump attack, one of the only tanky Pokemon able to do this. Latias can sit on the field well with a 0.5 second Dragon Breath attack to charge the Max Meter quickly. Keep in mind though, that without a flying type resistance, Latias takes Aeroblast harder than most other tanks mentioned, so there is a bit of a trade-off here. Last but not least, I have to give credit where credit is due. When facing down a beast, why not summon one yourself? Indeed, Once you have a solid Lugia of your own, investment into its tanking abilities will prove rather useful for taking down more of its brethren. Despite only resisting Future Sight, Lugia's monstrous defense and stamina stats give it one of the best performances against its own attacks, barring Aeroblast still breaking level 3 shields. Blissey and Chansey are the two best healers in the game. They possess nearly identical stamina stats, and with the right investment into Max Spirit, can drop massive health bombs on you and your teammates during battle. This is where these Pokemon start to fall off. Their attacking and defense stats are not good, leading them to deal paltry damage and take a ton of damage in return, even if their HP stat can help make it seem like they can stomach it. Players still may find use for Blissey to damage sponge against Lugia. Just be on the lookout for Aeroblast, as Blissey's mountain of HP can be scrambled just as fast as with tanks. Snorlax is another great healer. As is typical between the comparison between Blissey and Snorlax, the latter tends to offer more versatility at the expense of raw healing power. This remains the case with Snorlax's Gmax Replenish outdamaging Blissey's best efforts easily. On the flip side though, this means Snorlax has less HP to work with on the damage-soaking side, making it less capable of taking hits from Lugia. Consider this when weighing your healing options. Some may find more or less use for Snorlax in this fight. I'm prescribing players to bring Gmax Gengar into Lugia battles. This Pokemon is the best attacker for dishing out damage to Lugia, and with so many Pokemon falling to Lugia's powerful attacks, a viable strategy will emerge to fight fire with fire. What makes Gengar my pick of the day though is the likelihood that players will actually be able to bring powered up Gengars to the fray. I will always prefer a powered up Pokemon to a freshly caught one, and this heavy hitter is no exception. I hope you feel a bit more prepared for the upcoming debut of Dynamax Lugia. It should be quite the challenge for a team of 4. If you learned something or found anything surprising in today's video, drop a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe while you're at it. Till next time.